Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down and go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake or loyal? Rhino water, death is sign, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come.
We take play seriously. That's why ATK chooses Omen by HP and Windows 10.
Here we come.
Alright, welcome back everyone to some more South African Overwatch action. Overwatch by ATK. Tonight's matchup should be a lot of fun. It should decide the top of the Challenger division in theory, unless something very drastic changes over the coming weeks. But before we get into anything serious, of course we've got to introduce the casters. My name is Sam Peets, as you guys are well aware, and as I'm so often joined by these days, it's Nori Mizuki. Welcome.
What's up, guys? Pretty excited to be here for some more ZA Overwatch, and as you said, Challenger Division. This is a pretty important match. Both of these teams tied for first place by map differential. Okay, 2 games have been played. This is match number 3, but it's still important.
It is important, and as things unfold, like I said, I think we will see these two teams develop as the 2 top teams in the Challenger Division. They both came through the playoffs bracket, both unfortunately unlucky to actually drop down. Vanguard just barely losing quite a close series, I think, to Leiden, and TSG losing a banger, actually got reverse swept by Odyssey. So 1 map away for 3 maps from the Elite Division, and unfortunately dropping out. So yeah, these 2 teams are, I would say, Elite Division caliber, and a cut above the rest of the Challenger Division teams in my opinion. So this should be quite a fun match, but there is some history between these 2 teams. Of course, in the calibration bracket, they were in the same group, and in that case, TSG took a 3-0 victory over Vanguard. So might be one-sided, but there have been some changes since then. So why don't you run us through the TeamMist lineup?
So looking over at TeamMist, obviously the first thing to note is Newt will be joining on the main tank there. And for the rest of the team, names you should be familiar with by now, it's Hamster, Nyan, Trizzle, Chef, and Metal Snow. The team has been around for quite some time. And as you mentioned, a 3-0, but that does kind of spark the flame of a grudge match, I do believe. So maybe this is where Vanguard can turn it around. Son, why don't you tell us a little bit about Vanguard?
You know, being 3-0 doesn't necessarily spark a grudge match. I was 3-0'd by Eden every time I played them, so never felt any grudges there. But hopefully that's not the case here. Talking about Vanguard, as you mentioned, we've got a familiar lineup with a couple of changes. Stalker on the main tank, side by side is James. A different face. Usually we'd see Von in that off-tank role, but James is now taking up the mantle of that off-tank, moving out from that DPS, which makes space for Cryptic to come into the team, joined side by side again by Pyro, Phoenix, and Possum still the supports in this team. So some changes here, but nothing too unfamiliar. And it might be exactly what Vanguard needs, just to rejig their roster slightly and inject some fire in there, which I think they've been lacking over the last couple of series we've seen of theirs.
And this is an interesting thing to note, you know, the changes in the teams. But what is also interesting to note in terms of changes is no hero bans this week. And Son, it looks like our first map is going to be Lijiang Tower, which is a really great map that these teams can really start to take advantage of. With none of these hero ban nonsense things going on anymore, they are free to really play around, get creative with those compositions, and particularly with this map. It is going to be Garden, so I'm expecting probably something a little bit more dive-centric here. Don't want to play too close on point. Maybe even go for a little bit of a poke composition, but nothing too brawly, I don't suspect.
Well, like you say, they've got the breadth of options now, nothing holding them back from choosing whatever heroes they want to choose. Because like you mentioned, there's no hero pools, no Overwatch League hero pools, and for some reason there's no competitive hero pools either, even though they promised it would be. So yeah, free reign for these teams to choose whatever they want. And I agree with you. I think I like Dive on this point, and we've seen both of these teams be pretty good at running them. And in fact, now, as we see here, both teams running some variation of team. Interesting to see the ball Winston composition. Often we see the ball diva composition, but both teams seem to run that, and both teams opting for a little bit of aerial superiority as well. It'll be a lot of fun to see how these Pharaohs duke it out in the sky.
Near mirror matchups here, of course, as you mentioned, the Winston Diva differentiation, and then of course the Lucio and the Ana. And in this particular instance, you'll have when you have the ball with the Winston, you play the ball as an off tank, but the ball with the Diva is played as a main tank. So very different jobs that these balls need to accomplish, but both very important in their own right.
Absolutely. We see Cryptic on the trace here, just putting on the pressure on the flank for now. He's going to move around the back. But you see in the back line there of Vanguard, a lot of damage going down. Ooh, getting low, not taken down though. James can find the first pick, but Stalker does end up dropping immediately afterwards. So both teams a man short here, but Vanguard coming out punching with a lot of kills here. Newt, the newest recruit for TSG TeamMist, last man alive on the point, spinning around to try and buy some space for his team, but unfortunately he does get taken down. Return kill does come in the form of Possum, but the point will go to Vanguard here for the first cap.
Nice early engagement there from Vanguard, diving straight onto the supports. And now, while they did lose Stalker in the engagement, it was exactly what they needed to clear out the rest of the players. Now, TSG kind of trickling a little bit here, playing very split. I'm not too sure how well this will work out for them.
Yeah, I do get a little bit of point movement there, and with that first pick might actually be a good movement for them to come towards the point now. I agree, I thought it was a bit of a strange initiation, but no initiation is the best initiation as they get the first couple of picks here in this team fight. Return kills though coming the other way, but in fact, again, so this is a very messy fight for both teams here. I think the next team to get the pick will win the team fight, and it is TSG TeamMist who get that pick and who flip the point at 39%.
Vanguard get forced into a very strange rotation there by TSG, and it worked out quite well for them. Split them up from the rest of the team and take them down systematically. And now we've got two ultimates online here for TSG to try and hold on to point, but Vanguard coming in hot with 3 of their own. Oh, but that early pickoff does not bode well.
That's going to be a bit of a problem. Support on support action. Metal Snow picks up his second of the team fight. The whole pharmacy dealt with by Ana. That's what you want to see out of your supports. Them putting out all the DPS. And it's just going to force Vanguard to back up and regroup before the fight even really gets started.
I can imagine the team comms. Guys, I think we might need a hit scan. Metal Snow, don't worry about it. I got this. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
He just absolutely pops off. And he's built himself a nice little nano boost there for his troubles. But we're going to start things off here with the Valkyrie from Possum.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, but both two people going down very quickly there for the side of Vanguard. After a good start, they're struggling to find their footing now in these team fights. So lots of ults coming out. The minefield, the sound barrier, the rocket barrage, but no kills off the back of that. Well, as I say that, no kills do come off the back of that, but not that many. Most of those were razors in the kill feed. The Cryptic Walk looks to put the damage down onto the DV here. He does have the pulse bomb, but he gets his head bashed in by Newt's hamster, pile driven on his head. And that's going to clean up the team fight here as Lucio looks to make a hasty retreat. But he's going to get the butt of the pulse cannons in his head as Neon cleans up the team fight for TeamMist.
TSG with a very, very strong hold on this point at the moment. And as you said, quite a few ultimates used in that last fight. All TSG have right now is a pulse bomb and fairly far off from any other ultimates. Vanguard going to be coming in with a pulse bomb of their own, but also very far away from anything else. They've made the swap onto the Sombra, but with about 5 seconds left, I'm not sure if they're going to get the value they want.
That's assuming they lose the team fight. If they win this team fight, then it makes a lot of sense. And the hack to deal with the ball also does. But what doesn't make a lot of sense is losing all your players as the team fight starts. As Trizzle picks up Phoenix and another went down in the meanwhile. Newt going to hook up with Possum there, boops him off the map. And after a shaky start for TeamMist, a pretty emphatic comeback nets them the first point of Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, they did that very strong, quite decisively as well. They did lose out on that first fight, but managed to regroup and bring it home and have a very, very solid hold on that point. Now as we move over onto Control Center, this is one of those maps where I expect more of that brawl style composition, and immediately we can see the swap ups being made here. TSG looking to run the Reinhardt and the Diva along with the Reaper and the Doomfist. Very brawly, very in your face. Whereas Vanguard opting to run something a little bit more familiar. You know, the McCree May, we've seen that quite often. It does get a ton of value. Nope, back onto the Reaper. Alrighty. Sorry,
Oh,
sports
the
fans,
deepest
no
thirst.
walls for you.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to see that anyway. Who cares about May? Let's look at these teams playing what they're playing. The McCree here is the difference, and the Doomfist on the other side. So it's quite a different philosophy for both teams. And in fact, the McCree, in many ways, it counters the Doomfist, but not the direct hard counter that some other counters are. As the Doomfist comes in, gets rid of Possum immediately, but a nice sleep and a charge from Stalker. Gonna take him down. Stalker, in fact, the one putting in all the damage for his team, or at least cleaning up the front line of TeamMist as Newt goes down here. Vanguard sitting pretty on the point, in a good position, looking good to get this first cap, unless they get on the point. Okay, Reaper comes in, immediately assassinates Phoenix, and with that kill, Chef finds the headshot onto Pyro. Suddenly it's all turned around. His TeamMist sitting pretty on the point. Now they move forward, and they're going to secure themselves the first point cap here on this control center.
Well done for TSG to pull back a little bit there and try and build up those resources. Bit of a misplay from Vanguard to allow them to so easily regroup with the rest of their team, especially when they had a man advantage. But they're now going to try to come in here for the recontest. There is an Earthshatter ready for Stalker, and that could be massive because Newt is way behind on the ult economy. They need to try and get that up as quickly as possible. Nice little side rotation here to try to get some leverage onto point, but is it going to be enough?
Let's see, the Doomfist going in there, a bit of a problem, but the Shadow comes down. Newt does find the first pick, but that response should be pretty good. Cryptic DPS traded there, but oh my god, kills in every way. I think it's still even somehow. The boost here on the front line, probably not intended, but oh my god, Chef deletes Possum like he's not even there and moves on back to point now to prevent Pyro from getting the capture. So a bit of a mistake, but Chef's not going to throw away these kinds of chances to put on a show for the South African Overwatch community.
TSG played this fantastically. They started losing numbers, and instead of regrouping where the fight was happening, they regrouped on the point. So as soon as Vanguard got there, they were running into an enemy team, and now they've maintained this control of the point with a few ultimates in the bank to try and keep that hold steady.
Speaking of ultimates here, lots of ultimates coming out, but it's Vanguard coming out on top. In fact, through the Graviton Surge, the Sound Barrier, and the Meteor Strike, somehow they still punched their way through. Of course, they did have a Sound Barrier of their own, and they committed a Nano Boost, but Pyro, with a few cleanup kills in the end here, are going to make it easy for Vanguard to flip the point around again.
They committed a ton of ultimates into that fight. Yes, TSG did drop the Graviton Surge, but they did manage to hold on to their Death Blossom and their Sound Barrier. So looking very good here coming into this next fight. Big anti-nade's going to make them have to pull back a little bit, but now as it clears, they have an opportunity to push in, possibly with that Sound Barrier, and really speed their way in.
Yeah, Death Blossom as well here for 9. Shouldn't choose to commit it. He's moving forward now to get the kill with the left click, and another 3 with the Death Blossom. That's how you want to open a team fight. Another emphatic victory for TSG as they look to clean up the last remnants of Vanguard and secure themselves one more fight perhaps till the end of the series, end of the match.
Yeah, beautiful anti-nade from Metal Snow to open it up. The beat goes on to help out Nyan to get off that Death Blossom, and a very disgusting Earth Shatter.
Oh man, Super Shatter. Newt making his impact in his first broadcasted match here. Just getting so aggressive, shutting him down. Pyro is on the May here, but he's got to work his way to point if he's going to win this team fight. Cryptic does find a kill though, so there might be something to this team fight for Vanguard. It's a real clutch situation to do, but that's kind of the disadvantage of playing that so aggressively, is that the shatter is the spawn distance is so short. Let's see now if they move forward. They do get the recap here, and they might be able to force Vanguard back a little bit. Pyro dropping low, does get taken down. Trizzle finishes him off with the uppercut, but can they find anything more? Yes, Cryptic finds one with the the Deadeye, the main tank of TSG going down, but immediately pays for it with his life. Nano Boost now on to Stalker. Can he find any value with this? Nice work from James. Eats the grab. I think that could be the key that secures Vanguard this team fight victory, and looks like Vanguard stabilizing for now. TSG doing the same. Neither team overcommitting here as Newt rejoins his team on the front line here. In the back line, meanwhile, Trizzle doing all the work, but he gets stunned out. But the sound barrier going to keep him alive. And after a long, drawn-out team fight, it seems like it's TSG who are finally pulling it out of the bag here as Vanguard are beaten back once again. 99% on the clock here. It's looking pretty good for TSG to take this map.
Oh man, TSG have performed out of their minds here. Unfortunately, that last solo Lucio not able to get onto the point in time to try to contest. Now that last fight was insanely scrappy, and honestly, Vanguard should have taken it. They shouldn't have allowed TSG to so easily get back from spawn and regroup like they did. And I loved seeing the combination between the sound barrier and the Death Blossom, and then on top of the sound barrier we also see Nyan get bubbled by the Zarya, so extra all the protection in the world, and you can see how much it pays off because both times that he dropped that Death Blossom he got at least 2 kills. So really great synergy and teamwork there to make sure that they're comboing their ultimates correctly. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Vanguard, however, felt like they were just scrambling towards the end there, despite the fact that they were able to flip the point back in their own favor, regain control of it. They weren't able to push Vanguard, or rather TSG, back. And because of that, they lost out on their point control once again.
Yeah, unfortunate for Vanguard there. I agree with you, very scrappy from both teams, in fact, and perhaps speaks to the recent roster changes that both teams have gone through. One of the teams has just completely vacated the lobby, rather surprisingly. I imagine somebody clicked leave game instead of just being patient and letting it end out. But that's okay. That's control now in the bag. It's the kind of map that can always look very scrappy on both teams. You can kind of lean on your mechanics a lot more. The next couple of maps are going to come down a lot more to strategy. Don't worry. So we're going into hybrid here. It won't be Kings Row, as we know, out of the pool. So we can see some other maps. Hollywood has been a very popular choice. And I believe you guys saw
Blizzard World.
Blizzard World, exactly. That's right.
We saw Blizzard World.
Snorlax, they chose Blizzard World, surprisingly. So a couple of options here, but I think both teams have some stuff they can work on.
I mean, hybrid, the thing about hybrid is, of course, you have that initial point that you need to gain control of. So similar to your assault and your control type points, where you need to gain control of a point before anything really starts to happen. And I think that teams that manage to put up a solid defense on a map like control or assault will tend to do a little bit better on hybrid. Not necessarily, of course, the escort portion of it, but I think that they would be more likely to be able to mount a solid defense here. So TeamMist on their defense, I think that they would be looking very strong to hold out. That being said, Vanguard was able to wrestle back control of the points, of the control points on Lijiang. I wouldn't say easily, but they were able to do it, especially if they used a couple of ultimates to wedge a pathway for themselves. So if they're able to do that, I'm really curious to see how they're going to be able to, leverage that into cart push. But it looks like they're going to be doing escort first, not hybrid, and we're going to be jumping on into Junkertown.
Oh, we'll see, because it's meant to be hybrid first. So we'll see what they end up choosing. Well, at least we know what our third map is likely to be. Of course, this is a Vanguard map choice, so they're deciding it will be Hollywood, in fact.
Okay.
Vanguard, as we suggested, quite a popular map. It's been in the game since the beginning of Overwatch, so a map that most teams are quite comfortable on. But a lot of different facets at play for first point and second point, especially third point as well. It kind of, unlike a lot of maps, similar to a lot of escort maps actually, it goes from quite a closed off, sort of not high groundy area. Wow, I didn't phrase that very elegantly, but go with me here. Compared to the second point, the streets phase is very high ground oriented, or at least it can be. So you kind of see some teams defending the first point with the second point in mind. And so that's why we see often the dive composition coming out on the first point in preparation for the second point, where that composition is super, super strong. So it could be interesting to see how these teams choose to approach that first point especially. And then the third point is just a mess. That hallway is so difficult to move through, and you can get stuck on that last point quite a lot. So it's interesting to see how these teams approach this.
Absolutely. And something else to bear in mind, not just the high grounds, but also just how much space and how high the skybox is. I mean, if you compare the first point to the second point to the third point, they are three very, very different points. Both of the first points have fantastic skyboxes, so we tend to see a ton of Farah. There's some amazing sight lines on second point in the street space, so we tend to see a couple. Occasionally, we'll see some of those snipers, and on the third point, very, very enclosed areas, small skybox. So we tend to see more kind of brawly compositions, or something maybe oriented to more towards poke. So every point has its own kind of idea of how you want to run whatever composition it is that you've chosen. So as I mentioned before, first point, we do tend to see those Farahs, particularly on the offense. And the defense, recently, we've seen a lot of Torbjorn. And honestly, I'm kind of here for it. I think that I really love the sight lines that he can take advantage of and the crossfire that he can create to distract the enemy team and to make sure that they're not focusing on the front line, focusing on trying to get down whatever it is that's doing damage from a different area. And wherever it is that they're focusing, they will then be damaged from a different place. So we do tend to see quite a lot of that Torbjorn play. We'll give it a second or two to see. Are the teams going to make my dreams a reality? No.
Doesn't look like it, but we do get to see some Echo, which I'm never gonna complain about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Farah, Echo, same, right? Echo, in fact, an absolute powerhouse at the moment, does so much damage. Bit of a glass cannon, can be taken down quite easily, but those sticky bombs are potent. And that beam, I mean, Symmetra beam, you go sit down, right?
Yeah,
Echo's beam is just
it's insane.
painful.
It's so insane. So for those of you unaware, this is the newest hero to Overwatch, and that beam does 50% more damage, or is it 100% more damage? Who cares? It does a lot more damage to people who are below 50%. It does 200% damage. It does 100% more damage to people who are below 50% HP. So that makes tanks all of a sudden very squishy if they're not careful. So a hero that can really dominate the skies, and will look to do so. Here as the teams move on in. Stalker again on his trusty Reinhardt. No dive for the attacking team here, but Vanguard, Luton will be on that Winston, so a little bit more of an aggressive defensive posturing here, but moving through to see it. Okay, they are moving through now. Neon is scoping things out here, but an immediate pick onto Newton, who gets caught out. Not quite sure how they managed to get that to happen, but Nine in the back line gets a nice return kill onto Possum. No mercy on either team. So these deaths will be permanent. As Cryptic comes back to try and deal with the Tracer, but he's taken down so quickly in response. Nine putting on a clinic here on the Tracer. Can he find anything more? It looks like Stalker gonna go down as well. Hamster gets the last hit on that, but again, thanks to damage from Nine. Nine, of course, a standout performer from our last series we watched of theirs, but unfortunately not going to be able to bring home the victory here, but looking much better against Vanguard, at least in this first team fight.
Very solid defense here, and I'm curious about the McCree May, specifically if they are going to continue running through with it. It looks like they are. Of course, the McCree, fantastic decision, but going to be struggling against both the Tracer and the Echo in the sky. He's going to need a little bit more support. We've got a couple of ultimates online here for TSG, Nano Boost and Pulse Bomb, but they're going to start things out with that Nano.
Yeah, Nano Boost getting very aggressive here with the Newton Monkey. Finds the first pick onto James, who was, for some reason, demeched a bit earlier, probably from the previous team fight. And that is a pretty good way to take a very quick team fight. Just kill the Diva before she finds her mech. But they did commit the Nano Boost, and Nine goes down as well. Like I said, no mercy here. No mercy, the hero. And I'm sure the idea as TSG moving back a little bit, Cryptic does have that dead eye, managed to charge that up, and now the Dapper Circle is coming to duplicate onto the Reinhardt. That extra shield gonna make it difficult for Cryptic to do any damage, and he's under so much pressure here from the enemy Echo as a Reinhardt, and in fact, kills going both ways though. Neither team with a serious advantage, but I think with that kill onto Pyro, TSG are sitting pretty in this team fight. Can they find anything more to close it out? Will TSG bring it back? That sound barrier, or rather that self-destruct, won't be the difference maker, but Stalker going down most likely will, as the DPS look up for a quick triple at the end of that, and Vanguard have to go back to the drawing board here.
TSG a lot more organized, it seems, and they're managing to coordinate their players far more effectively. Vanguard really, as you said, struggling. Not just Cryptic struggling under the pressure. The whole team really just trying to find some avenue in. Now we're going to see them make a couple of swap ups here. They're going to be going for a little bit of a dive composition of their own, running the Mercy along with it. Now I do expect, okay, there we go. There's that swap. I didn't think the Mercy was legitimate. They're going to be running the Tracer, who is very powerful with dive at the moment, particularly if you can stick an armor pack on that Tracer, let Cryptic get into the back line with a little bit extra health, and hopefully take down one of those supports and give them an opening.
9 was spotted out there, but Stalker dropping down straight away is going to mean that Vanguard are going to have to reconsider moving forward in this team fight. Pyro, though, does find a late pick onto Metal Snow, so they may be able to use their spawn advantage to come back in here for the next team fight.
And Pyro still sitting on that Blizzard. He's going to need to use it with only about 20 seconds left for them to make moves and get onto this point. It's now or never, and this could be their last attempt to try and make something happen.
Yeah, it might be so, but the Blizzard's so hard to find value on against the composition that TSG are running. Pyro pops a bit of damage from the stickies here, but it won't go down. He might look to commit the Blizzard now, but he's not. Again, he's not finding good targets. Cryptic, though, finds Hamster, but not before Possum is taken down by 9. That anti-heal going to be spelling doom for Phoenix here, courtesy of Newt as well. Trizzle going to fly up in the air, pop the self-destruct, could be huge, no shields anywhere, and finds Pyro. Pyro had committed the Blizzard, so not the world's biggest loss, but they can't afford to lose this team fight if they win this game. TSG managed, or do give away a tick, so Vanguard with something to defend should it end here, but it's not looking good for the blue squad as they... I mean, the blue is in their logo is blue, not the blue in the game. That's very confusing.
Oh my goodness.
For the red squad in game.
Son,
As
please.
they unfortunately aren't able to cap the first point. But like I say, they get some ticks or something to play for still.
As I said, TSG really showed their mettle on Lijiang in terms of holding down a point for as long as possible, and that's exactly what they did here. Solid full hold on Hollywood. Now it's going to be their turn to attack. We need to see if Vanguard can somehow match their strength, I guess, on defense, because the best that Vanguard can hope for right now is a draw. If they lose one tick, then they will lose out this map, and they're going to need to be very careful.
They've got 42%, so they managed to get a tick. So if they do full hold, they can score.
All right, so a full hold is like the best thing for them, I suppose. Yeah. They want to try and make sure that they can full hold this. So either way, they don't want to give up a tick. Let's put it like that.
Exactly.
Vanguard, however, don't have a massive task ahead of them. Interesting to note that they're not going... Well, for now it seems that they're not going for a rush composition. They do have the Lucio, which can obviously speed boost them in, but they're going for something that plays a little bit more slowly. And you can see that Vanguard are adamant to try and hold on here. They've gone for double shield. There's that Torbjorn I spoke about. And of course, pairing that up with the Echo as well. Tons and tons of damage output. They've even got the Batiste as well for extra healing. They realize they cannot afford... As we said, they cannot afford to give up a single tick.
Exactly. So TSG moving in here again. They only need to get just over one tick to take the victory here, and they've got a good composition to do it. Okay, Stalker gets a very, very close-up view of what the wall texture looks like as he drops down now. This is a bit of a dangerous maneuver here, but they do have a couple of shields. But I mean, those picks straight away, both DPS hitting the deck here for Vanguard, and when you have no damage coming out, it's pretty hard to win a team fight in Overwatch as 9 finds his way into the backline. It's just not actually being responded to here as Nutu finds a pick on the front line. Finally, 9 does go down, but it's too little, too late here as TSG are scrambling, or rather Vanguard are scrambling here to put up the last strings of the defense, and it won't be enough as TSG TeamMist will take their second map of the series.
That Orisa fortify, bit of a double-edged sword. Reinhardt charges, Orisa fortifies, Reinhardt charges the Brigitte into the Orisa, and the Brigitte dies. You know what? It happens, and it's funny to watch, but I think it's very, very unfortunate for the team involved with their Brigitte being smushed against their very own Orisa. Yes, a very, very strong, dominant display there from TeamMist, and that's going to bring us to match point, son.
Well, it is match point for one of the teams. One of the other teams would really prefer not to have it be match point, but unfortunately, we are looking down the barrel of a reverse sweep if Vanguard's going to take this, and that's a position you never want to be in. But TSG has been here before. They've been here, and they've been reverse swept in our most recent broadcasted match of theirs against Odyssey as I mentioned. In fact, that's why they're here playing Vanguard, is because they can't reverse sweep. So maybe there's a bit of a monkey on their back. But of course, I think with Newt in the team this time around, their mental's a little bit more stable. Not to imply that it wasn't stable back then, but we know Newt is quite a stable guy mentally, at least when it comes to coaching teams of a very high caliber. So if anyone's going to be able to keep them calm, remind them, show them the path to victory, it's going to be Newt here.
Hell yeah, just called an entire team mentally unstable, folks.
Yeah, I did, right? You know what? I can't take it back. I can't take it back. That's not what I meant, but I did literally say that.
You know what? It happens. It'd be like that.
So guys, before we go to our third map here, we will be heading into a short break. So please don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. A very short break, but I'm sure these teams appreciated it. And in fact, I think Vanguard will probably very appreciate it for a moment to reset, because they are looking, well, let's put it this way, they're struggling in the series so far. TSG TeamMist showed up to dominate today, and they've executed on that pretty well so far, Naori.
Been very difficult, been a bit of an uphill battle here for Vanguard, but as we move over onto our third map, it is going to be Volskaya Industries. Now we're moving on to an assault type map, and we've had This will be our third map in a row where the primary objective is to wrestle control of a point before anything else can happen. And that we already know does not bode well for Vanguard. And neither does holding on to that point to try and deny the enemy team from wrestling control. But as you said, we've had a 2-minute break. Maybe they've used this opportunity to talk it out and figure out what their strategy is going to be going forward. Now, Volskaya Industries, another map where we tend to see quite a lot of that dive composition just for being able to quickly get onto point, especially as it's a very enclosed, tight choke that they need to get through. With that truck in the way, it forces them into either they split or they funnel through as one to get through the choke, and either way can be very dangerous. And then of course, as they come past the truck, there's the blue box in front of them, which again makes things a little bit difficult as they need to split or funnel. These guys, these teams really do like to focus on that dive composition so they can just get straight onto point as quickly as possible without kind of hana-haning around. Hana-haning. Yes, I said it, okay? I miss home.
Oh, man. Yeah,
But,
I agree. So they can, but interestingly enough, they're choosing not to run it here. They've decided they're going to value a more static composition here, the double shield instead. That's surprising to me, actually.
Mind it too much on the defense. I think that you can really get some value out of it, particularly with this composition. They're running a very, very space denial heavy composition. So I think they're expecting a dive, and they're expecting to try and shut that down by denying space, denying avenues. They've got the turret, they've got Ash for tons of spam damage, and of course at some point Bob's going to come out and do a little bit more of that zoning. What interests me is Vanguard running the Reinhardt Diva with the Tracer and the Reaper. I think they're going to really struggle to get some value out of this. They might even want to swap it up.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, we saw
back
that
to
already,
spawn.
but Nyan just peeked around the corner, popped a quick shot into Cryptic's head, and then moved on with his day like it was nothing. That was terrifying efficiency.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate there for Cryptic Nani. Doesn't manage to stay alive. Now he has to get back to the rest of his team who have rotated without him. Thankfully, he is Tracer. He can do the blinky blinks. But for the time being, he seems to be kind of stalled out. Oh, he's going on a flank. It looks like he might be going for one of these supports.
Could well be. And here he is in the backline. But again, needs to be careful of Nine, who dealt with him so well the first time around. But Pyro gets the pick on the front line there onto Newt. So again, a better start, or at least a better start. But a difficult follow-up. Even the res coming out. So all the hard work Vanguard have accomplished so far undone. But what will not be undone is that tick they just achieved on the first point, and in fact another pick onto Newt. So the main tank struggling a little bit here in the face of Vanguard's play, and it looks like they might pick up another tick here. James on the point is all likely going to get taken down quite aggressively. The Bob comes out as well. The TP onto the high ground. Pyro gonna force Nine back, dropping a little bit, won't get taken down. Chef doing a good job of keeping his Ash alive, and again another beautiful headshot, but this time Stalker taking matters into his own hand with a nice double shatter and a triple kill with one swing. That's what you want to see. Stalker putting Vanguard on his back and securing them the first point in all likelihood.
Actually performed that so well. I was a little nervous about Crip getting into the back line there, but he managed to distract like 4 of the enemy team. Both supports and the Ash all turned around at the same time, and it made it so easy for Vanguard on the lower ground, the front line, to take down at least one member, and that was exactly the snowball that they needed. Once the main tanks were out of the way and one of the supports, it was super easy to maintain control of the point and finally get that third tick. They've done exceptionally well here, and as we move over onto the second point, they will be coming in with the sound barrier and a death blossom pretty soon.
Yes, they will, but look at Vanguard, so many things happening. Oh god, swinging away here, Newt. And with that molten core and the nano boost, it looks like Vanguard, with those people eating themselves off the map there, I think that pretty much decides things. Is Vanguard gonna reapproach this one?
Tactical reset. We saw a nice little earth shatter block there from Stalker. Newt not able to connect. And then, of course, followed up by a nice little molten core that did manage to get one pick off, and which ultimately somewhat won them the fight there. They did deny space onto the point. 1 or 2 members went down. The rest, as you said, yeeted themselves off the map. But Vanguard coming in hot with 5 ultimates here. I mean, they are looking so stacked. Both support ultimates ready to go, and a nice little zoning self-destruct coming through right now.
Yeah, there it is. Self-destruct finds one, in fact. The return goes back one way, but Vanguard have picked up more in this team fight. The Resurrection, though, going to bring things back up to even. Newt back in the mix here on the Reinhardt and working his way towards another Earth Shatter, but he is going to be hard-pressed to stay alive here. There it is, though. The Shatter finds quite a few, and in fact, it's going to secure TeamMist this fight, and they commit the Death Blossom Pyro. Unfortunately, a lot of his teammates dropped at the exact moment he chose to commit the Death Blossom. Now he looks a little bit silly, and he doesn't have a Death Blossom for the next fight.
Well, and unfortunately, Stalker was busy swinging away. I think he thought that they might have won that fight, so no shield for his team, and that was how that Earth Shatter managed to very easily connect with what was left of Vanguard, and then, of course, it was cleanup. And as you said, all 5 ultimates, absolutely, I'm going to say it, wasted in that last fight. Thankfully, Possum, very close to another Coalescence, should be able to build it up very quickly once again, thanks to that little TNT dynamite from Nyan. And now they're going to continue to push in. They need to be careful, though, because there's a Molten Core waiting for them just around the corner.
That is very true, and let's see how they respond. Here it comes, Molten Core thrown down on the ground, splitting the team up quite effectively. That's a big shatter, though. He finds quite a few, and the follow-up looks decent, but he gets the Nano Boost and is taken down immediately. Nano Boost going out in the other direction. This is a very messy fight, but this is 2 CP. This is assault. If you're not winning clean fights as the attackers, you're not winning any capture. As I say that, though, a nice double pick from Cryptic at the end here. It's Ash on Ash action as the 2 Ashes try and take each other out, but unfortunately, Cryptic has no backup, and Nyan has a shield.
That was super unfortunate, though, because that's a massive stagger. That's going to burn a lot of time off of the clock, and somebody needs to deal with Nyan. I'm really glad to see Cryptic swapping over onto that Ash. Not too sure about this Echo pick, particularly as they're running it into Nyan on that Ash. I mean, if he's going to continue doing what he was doing to Cryptic on a Tracer, I can't imagine what damage he's going to wreak on a poor, unsuspecting Echo. But with the Mercy Pocket, hopefully Pyro will be able to survive. They don't have a lot of time to push here.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're relying on the Mercy Pocket to keep Pyro safe in the sky and allow him to put that damage in over the top. But into an Ashe and a Torbjorn, it's going to be quite difficult to find the value on this hero. And like you say, also not a lot of time to build that duplicate. So be a difficult play here for Pyros. The charge goes through on the low ground here. Damage over the top. The Shadow going down as well. Doesn't seem to hit anyone. It does, in fact, hit Newt, who's all out on his own out in the background there. So taken down in the midst of the Shadow as Vanguard move forward. A Bob goes out one way, both ways, I think. In fact, this Hamster putting down the damage on the Sigma here, but again, Vanguard not able to put the damage through that they need to get the point here. Stalker is on point, but he's all by himself, and the Sigma Hamster on fire. Not in a good way, but there shouldn't be a problem here for TSG to hold.
Oh man, that was a very unfortunate fight there. Got a little bit split quite early on. We even saw the immortality field come out to try and keep them alive, but the Shadow came through, got Newt, and despite getting the main tank down, just were not able to push through onto point. Now, as we push through with only 10 seconds left, all they have is Amplification, Matrix, and a Valkyrie, and they need to move. They haven't got anybody really that can get on fast.
Yeah, they don't. They're going to have to move forward. Can they get the touch? Okay, they do start the overtime clock here, but Trizzle, after that first pick from 9, he contributes with one of his own, and at that point, it's elementary here. Cryptic does get a return kill, but he's not going to kill everybody all by himself, and so full hold on second point here means that TSG with Vanguard with a lot of work to do on their defense.
I mean, this is what was really interesting for me is a nice clean offense there from Vanguard on that first point, and they really took advantage of their own spawn advantage and knowing that the spawns for TSG were so far away. But as soon as TSG had that spawn advantage, I mean, when you look at a map like Control where both teams have exactly the same spawn doors, it's way more evened out. But then you look at a map like this where there was a massive disadvantage for TSG and Vanguard took advantage of that. But as soon as they came on to the second point, the fact that TSG is already good at holding a point, and you add on top of that the fact that their spawn is like 2 meters away from the point, it was so easy for them to... 3 steps and you're back on the point. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so you add those... Add those factors together and you've got yourself an exceptionally strong hold on that second point there. There was just no way for Vanguard to break through those defenses. Now, however, they need to put up some solid defenses of their own. Going to be running that double shield again, the Orisa and the Sigma. Running Cryptic on that Hanzo, and we're going to have Pyro back on the Echo. Now, Nyan, it looks like, is going to be running the McCree instead of the Ashe this time, but I think he can deal just as much devastation on that Kree, and we are going to be seeing that Mei as well to try and deny some sight lines and to deny some rotations. These are some great picks for dealing with this composition. Now it all just depends on how they rotate onto point and how aggressive they're going to be, because if they run in super aggressive, that's going to happen.
Well, that's a bad start. Pyro with the sticky bombs gonna deal with Metal Snow out the door pretty much, but he needs to be careful here. 9 on the McCree, gonna make it difficult for him to get the value out of the sky. He can't just fly around at will. He has to watch his positioning quite aggressively here. Now just chilling, waiting for Metal Snow to rejoin them here. Pyro under pressure from both DPS here in the sky, but he has the option to play slow and low here as well. He wants to gonna go for the flank now. Pops the sticky bombs, a lot of damage coming through, assisted of course by Phoenix on the Mercy. So lots of damage. I hear the Hanzo here shooting him, but I can't see exactly where he's coming from. Okay, he's just on the other side. There's a Trizzle moving forward now and struggling to find a way in here. I really like the way Vanguard have set up this dispense. That's a really nice wall.
Wow.
Though. Dispense Cryptic what to his doom and puts him up, and he gets knocked down there by 9. Good work from the DPS, and as I say that, they just demolished the front line of Vanguard. It's just Pyro left here. The Ice Block gonna keep 9 more than healthy, or rather Trizzle more than healthy, as 9 puts in the damage. And yeah, TSG with a very, very emphatic team fight victory there.
Early pick-off on Metal Snow slowed them down quite drastically, but teamwork managing to get Metal Snow back into the team quite safely. A very nice rotation up onto that high ground, forcing the whole of Vanguard to have to regroup on the opposite high ground. And once they pushed onto point, there was just no way to hold a defense. And now again, very, very aggressive push directly onto the point here, wasting no time.
Absolutely, but they don't find any kills just yet. 9 dropping low, needs to be careful. He is taken down by Pyro. That beam we spoke about, putting in the work and getting rid of the enemy DPS, but kills going both ways now. In fact, TSG with an advantage here. So, Pyro choosing to duplicate the Lucio. I always question that, and it looks like it's not going to work out for his team. I guess it made sense here where they were down a few. If he can get that sound barrier off, it might buy his team the time they need to rejoin. Phoenix dropping solo here on the Mercy, but Pyro doing his best to just keep his team in it, and so far he's doing a pretty good job. But 9 puts an end to that. The celebration Graviton Surge goes down as well, and now it's really looking dire for Vanguard here as they're in trickle mode, as they're just trying to keep themselves in the game. If they get this tick, it's all over. And it is TSG TeamMist with the dominant victory over ostensibly the second best team in the Challenger division.
TSG looking so strong at the moment, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier. The last time these two teams matched up against one another was a 3-0 for TSG, and unfortunately sometimes history is simply doomed to repeat itself. That was pretty unfortunate for Vanguard, but they did put up a very strong fight. I think they had some really solid, shining moments, and honestly, it just comes down to experience and practice. You know, TSG, these guys have been doing very well. They've been together for quite some time, in fact, and having just brought on Newt, as you said, it has added that little bit more mental coaching and possibly just some actual coaching along with their actual coach as well. As far as I know, Vanguard doesn't have a coach at the moment, so small things like that can make such a big difference.
Yeah, Vanguard are coached by OG's own Alvin Slayer, so they do have a dedicated coach. But TSG has the might of the ZA Rhinos coach, so a little bit outmatched perhaps. But speaking of outmatched, Vanguard will be dropping down here 0-3 to TSG TeamMist. But before we leave you guys for the evening, now where you have to choose for us a player of the match.
I don't like being put on the spot like this.
I put on the spot like we don't do this every time.
I'll be real. I kind of want to give it to. Oh man, so I was really thinking Nyan for a while there, but I want to go with Metal Snow. I feel like he put in so much work on that honor tonight. Some of those anti-nades were fantastic. Some of those nano boosts just to keep the rest of the team alive. And sniping a pharmacy out of the sky on his own. Man put in some work. You got to recognize.
Yeah, fair enough. Got to give some love to the supports, and we've given it to Metal Snow actually quite a few times. So he's a stand-up performer on
Unsurprising.
TSG team. But I think Nyan, I agree with you, could have been another choice, and then Newt. I'm always looking at the main tanks, and if a team
Of
does
course.
well, I always feel like the main tank is a big part of that. But I agree with you. Metal Snow will be our player of the match this evening, so we will try and get an interview with him any moment now, if we can get him in. But yeah, really well played to both teams.
I think this was a fairly difficult match for Vanguard from the beginning coming into this. As you said, both teams solid contenders for those top 2 spots in the Challenger division, and both of them narrowly missing out on the Elite division during the calibration tournament. So now this is really where they need to try and take time and take all of that knowledge that they've gained and really drive it home, because they are looking for the opportunity to get into that Elite division. And even if you don't do well in the Elite division, the experience that you can garner just from playing against those teams a little bit more regularly can make a world of difference. So this is really where they need to try and dig their heels in and hopefully turn this thing around, especially Vanguard, who unfortunately have lost out this evening but have done exceptionally well for themselves.
Yeah, and they've got a new roster as well. Maybe not in terms of personnel, but they have switched up their roles just a little bit. And James, I know, has been a stand-up performer on that DPS. So moving into the off tank, you do lose a little bit, I think, making that switch. And Vaughn was a pretty stable part of the team as well. So a little bit of change to get used to. So also, they looked quite scrappy today, and I think could be in part due to that.
Looks like
So
Metal Snow is in the interview room, so Lego.
Let's go. All right. Welcome, Mr. Metal Snow, and congratulations for beating Vanguard this evening.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about how you guys were feeling coming into this. I know that from our point of view, we're thinking you two are likely to be the 2 top teams in the Challenger division. Were you thinking the same thing, or how are you guys coming into this?
Yeah, we were feeling pretty confident, I think. We were disappointed when we didn't get into Elite,
Yeah.
at the end of our season. So we've been working really hard to improve and fix some of the mistakes we've been making, so that hopefully towards the end of this season we can get promoted back to Elite. But yeah, we were feeling pretty confident.
I think you guys are sitting in the driver's seat now as far as the Challenger division goes. Nori?
I mean, you guys have played Vanguard before, and we can see that you guys have been putting in a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And it seems like, let's face it seems like you guys kind of have the run of your division at the moment. So looking to the future, it's very likely that you will be able to make that climb, fingers crossed and touch wood and all that, into the Elite division. So, and this is a question that I love asking. Are there any teams that you're particularly looking out for that you possibly want to rematch against, or that you feel like you've really got a lot to learn from them and you'd love to just kind of play against them, or one of those teams that you're just terrified and really hope that you never have to play ever again?
I think we don't ever want to play ATK again. Last time we played them,
I wonder why.
they tranced and Torb Hammer killed us, so that was a lot of fun. In terms of rematches, I'm looking forward to playing Odyssey again. Obviously, last game was a really
now
close
that's a
game
grudge match. No, it's not the 3 O's that make grudge matches. It's 3 2s.
after the reverse sweep as well. I think we got a lot to prove. So that'll be definitely a good game to watch out for, I think.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun to look out for. A question from my side again is just Newt is obviously quite a well-known name in the community, of course. Coach of the ZA Rhino squad, the World Cup squad that went to BlizzCon at the end of last year. BlizzCon cancelled the other day. How sad is that? Anyways, Newt joining the team recently, not that recently, actually joined a number of weeks ago, but it's only recently been eligible to play. So talk to us a little bit about what him joining the team has done for you guys and what it's like to play with him.
It's definitely had a positive improvement on our team. Added like a lot of, I mean, more strategy and a bit more structure to some of our comps. You know, he's definitely a knowledgeable player, so he's brought quite a lot of new information and stuff to learn into our team. Definitely been a positive improvement. Yeah.
Awesome. Last question from
Has he integrated well into the team as well? I mean, no weird issues. I wouldn't say, not necessarily like personality wise, but just kind of play style, or were there ever any doubts about some of the decisions that he makes, or is everyone just like following him and just seeing massive improvement and just, you know, like letting him lead the charge?
Yeah, we're letting him lead most of the time, except when he feeds, which is occasionally. But yeah, other than
What to
that,
feed with
Or
him?
get called out.
yeah, he's good.
Awesome. So that about does it from us here at the casting booth. It's not a real booth, of course. We're all in our own.
I mean, I kind of have a
isolation
booth.
station booths. Yeah,
Kind
we
of.
know.
If I there we go. Now it's a booth.
That's a
Now it's a
booth.
booth.
Yeah. I cannot boothify my own setup, unfortunately. But we will be bidding you adieu this evening. But of course, before we sign off for this evening, we've got to get some sense of where we can find these people, these lovely people on the internet. Metal Snow, before you go, if you want to keep up with you, where can we find you?
I don't actually have any form of social media, which is a bit awkward.
Okay, where can we
but
find your team? then?
Follow
Do you live in the 1980s?
a little bit. You
Where
can
is your
follow-
time machine? Sorry.
You can follow TeamMist Getting ZA on Twitter and Instagram if you're interested in that.
Awesome. And then TSG as well on Twitter at TSG_ZA, I believe it is.
I
you
do
wanna-
believe so. Yeah.
TeamMist Gaming 1, which is
Someone else joined our name. There's another one.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
They've got more
so,
subscribers than followers. That's a bit
Aw.
awkward.
It's unlucky.
Oh, you actually checked the account. Yeah, that is sad actually. But that's where we can keep up with Metal Snow and the rest of the squad. Sam, where can we find you?
Nari Mizuki. Search it. If you find me, I'm there. If you don't find me, I'm not there.
Okay, it's a simple equation, guys. You know by now the whole story. My name, or before we get to me, of course, save the best for last. We have to say thanks to our producer, Mr. Authorized, at It's Authorized on Twitter, and at Are You Authorized on Twitch, I believe. So he streams very regularly, so you can pretty much every day, I think during lockdown, he's been streaming. So go there and follow him for some fun stuff. And of course, follow him on Twitter to see him tweet things. I don't know what he tweets. I follow him, but I don't read.
I don't even know what he tweets.
He doesn't even know what he tweets. My name is, of course, Sun Phoenix, at Sun Phoenix on Twitter. SUNPHEONYX. I had to remember myself how to spell that because it's very complicated. But that's where you can find me. I don't tweet much these days, but I do retweet lots of Overwatch stuff. And speaking of retweeting lots of Overwatch stuff, the competitive Overwatch Twitter as well is another place you can follow at ZA Overwatch on Twitter. That's going to be all your local Overwatch stuff, a good hub for all that information. And of course, shout out to our wonderful sponsors, not the right word, our tournament organizers, ATK, at ATK Arena on Twitter. That's where you can find them, and they're involved, of course, in a lot of different esports stuff, and they have an Overwatch team in the tournament. So for anything ATK related, that's the place to go. And speaking of going, that's what we're going to do. Thanks so much for joining us this evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Oh.
Some great segues, son. and speaking of,
Oh god. Okay, well.